Take one. Let's get started. It's been a while, I think over a year. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I have been a knitting YouTuber for a short period of time on a different channel, but I decided to switch to a different channel, a fresh start, and with the intention of keeping this really simple and fun and easy for me to manage so that I can be a little bit more consistent, because I've missed doing this. I miss the community that comes out of having a knitting podcast. So I'm excited to get started again. My name is Jessica, also known as Biscuit to some people because my last name gets changed and mispronounced a lot. And I'm coming to you from Virginia, where I hang out with my cat Ophelia, my family, and my special fella, just running around doing crazy wild stuff like playing video games, reading books, and knitting. So I hope you tuck in and get ready, and we're gonna get started. Thanks for joining me. So let's start with finished objects, and that's the elephant, one of the elephants in the room probably, is I haven't podcasted in over a year, which means that there's a decent amount of knitting that's just not going to get shown here, and I'm not even sure if my Ravelry page reflects everything that I knitted from late 2022 through 2023. So I'm just going to show the things that either I have in front of me or I took pictures of and gave as presents recently for the holidays, because there was a one hat in particular where I'd like to share that pattern because it was a lot of fun to knit, and I'll flash a picture up when we get to that. So first off, I made some mug rugs for a few people, and I tested some of them out just to figure out what size do I want them to be. I couldn't find exactly what I was looking on Ravelry for. So I kind of just picked a pattern, looked to see how many stitches they suggested to cast on based on the shape that I wanted, and then just kind of made it up. So I have linked my project page below for the finished, I guess it's not really a pattern, it's just a guidelines. If you have any questions about what I did, if it's not there, just let me know. But this was the first one that I made myself, and the lighting in here is a little weird, so you have to bear with me. And I was just holding fingering weight double to get a nice thick fabric. And then I tested out just doing some knit rows and purl rows and getting some texture, and one that was just a little bit smaller in width than this one. I ended up going with I want to say the gifts that I gave out, they were about this size, and added some much better tassels on the end of those. But the folks that I sent those to really seemed to appreciate them, and they were a lot of fun. So that's finished objects 1 and 2. Let's see. Oh, so my friend Chevis, her YouTube channel is Chevy Real Stuff. She started a D-Stash knit along last year, and you'll need to go visit her channel and Instagram page for the details, especially since I sort of broke the rules. So, and I'm not even trying to qualify for the giveaway, or not the giveaway, but the prizes, because I don't need more stuff in my apartment. I'm actually trying to declutter and get rid of things. And I have enough yarn to last me for longer than I'm willing to admit. But I did participate, and what I did was, I think it was the oldest pattern and yarn that you bought for the pattern in your stash. Well, I had a pattern that I printed out a very long time ago, and I had picked yarn from my stash at that time to make this shawl. So I didn't buy the yarn necessarily, I didn't buy the yarn after I picked out the shawl. I already had the yarn. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. But it was a really fun exercise to go back and look through my stash, because at some point and future me thanks past me, there was yarn that I had intended for specific shawls or whatever, and this was one of them, and I had like a bag with the printed pattern in it and everything. So I grabbed that. I ended up changing my colors at one point because one of them was like just too stark of a contrast. And I made some small changes to how I did things. I added a little bit more accent colors in here, but it's gonna be, the shape of this thing is really cool. Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I can do this justice. I still have to block this, by the way, and I have an unblocked picture of the whole thing, but this was just so much fun to do. I loved seeing the progress. I will say this involves a lot of short rows and some yarn management. So for me, it was the kind of project where I needed something on in the background that I didn't have to pay super close attention to, because you are, like, to create, for example, these arrows or chevrons, you did have to, there was a lot of back and forth in the middle with your contrast color. But if you don't mind just having a project where it's a process knit, this one was a lot of fun. I even threw in some goldish mohair and a lighter blue at one point. It was a lot of fun. So I need to block this. I just haven't done it yet because I needed to do some stuff in my office / craft room. And actually, Amy of Happy Little Yarn, she motivated me to get that done. So shout out to her for sure. So now that I have the floor space, I can finally, I just smacked myself in the face. I can finally block this. So I'm really excited to block it and get to use it because it's been chilly around here. Trying to figure out how I want to put this on my head. If you're new and you didn't go to the old channel, you hadn't been to the old channel yet, this is my thing. I don't know why, but I love stacking stuff on my head. It gets really warm in the summertime. Is that it for my finished objects? I don't think so. Oh, so I knit the Oblivion hat. I don't remember the pattern designer, but I am linking my Ravelry page down below if you want to see. It was a really easy pattern that has a lot of really great texture, and hopefully I'm popping up a picture, so editing me picture right here. I loved the texture that it created, and it almost looks like a cabled pattern in some places, but it's not. And I used yarn by the main color. I used, it was a one-of-a-kind skein by Craft Me Not Yarn Company. And I want to get a picture of the hat out in the sun because, like with all of her yarn, like just the depth of detail in her colorways is stunning. And it almost takes a little while to like just be able to absorb it all. She's probably my biggest yarn dyer crush, besides Erin of Coast to Coast Yarn, of course. So I want to get a picture of that, and then the ribbing for, I did a longer brim so that it could be like a folded brim. I used a room of my own, I think was the name of the other colorway. And I bought that from Stephen and Penelope, I don't know, gosh, years ago. So that hat is already out in the wild, but I did get a picture of it. I'll probably get another one, and I'll try to remember to pop it up over here. I also finished off a Musselburgh hat for my boyfriend's dad for Christmas, and he loves it. Apparently he grabs it and anytime he's going outside. So very knit worthy. I'm already working on something else for him that I will have, I think, in whips, right? And I did the campfire socks by the Crazy Sock Lady. This is probably I made them for a friend years and years ago, and then I used the same pattern to make socks for my dad and my stepmom for Christmas. Just did 2 different colors for them. And those socks are so much fun to make. You can use variegated yarn, you can use tonals or solids or semi-solids, and I think the pattern still shines no matter what. So I highly recommend that pattern. I've knitted it 3 times and I will probably make it again. I just love that pattern. So I did those, and then I made these socks out of some Lola Bean Yarn Co. yarn. I don't know if you can see. You can see the color. That probably wasn't helpful. I think this one was, there was iced tea and sweet tea or something like that. It was yarn that, I mean, I doubt it's in stock anymore. I got it from Eat Sleep Knit a year ago, 2 years ago. I have no idea. Time means nothing anymore. It really doesn't. But this is just a simple vanilla sock pattern. I think I did these on Magic Loop. These are gorgeous. I need to take pictures. And I'm thinking, like, when I keep making like Musselburghs or vanilla socks, I think I'm just gonna use like one that's already on my Ravelry page and then just upload pictures instead of a new project page for each one. That seems a bit extra, but whatever. I'll figure that out later. Y'all don't care. All right. I think that's it for the finished objects I remembered to talk about anyway. I know there are more. If you're really that curious, go to my project page. It may or may not be updated. So let's go into my UFOs. I decided I don't do New Year's resolutions. I just think I set myself up for failure when I do that. But in the last couple of months, after I got through my gift knitting, I did have a couple of things that I wanted to do with my knitting this year. One of those things was to set reminders to start birthday and holiday gifts months and months and months ahead of time so that I'm not like only knitting to race the clock, which I didn't do a terrible job about this year, but there was still more pressure than I wanted to have that I put on myself. So I'm going to work on that. But the other thing was I didn't want to only go through my only my unfinished objects, and that's all that I work on, because that's going to get old. But I thought, maybe what I could do is have one like small accessory on the needles that's, new that I've just cast on, while I also have one of my unfinished objects or whips, works in progress, going at the same time. And actually that was how this guy ended up getting done. There we go. That looks so much better, doesn't it? So the point of all of that is my first UFO is a new one. And it's just like my easy knitting when I'm sitting on the couch and just want to kind of relax and do something for myself. I decided to make some leg warmers. I didn't find a pattern that was really simple and that also had like my calf size. So I just kind of made some estimates based on like how I knit my socks and the needles, and all the information is going to be on the project page when I create it. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to try to do that before I publish this, which will be easy because I got to figure out new editing software for this video, all that fun stuff. But the first step is to recording, right? But this is the leg warmer so far. I am just grabbing, oh man, I'm going to need to get better lighting next time. But I am just grabbing scraps of yarn and then doing 10 rows of a different color and trying to keep a little bit of a color theme going on here. At some point, I'll probably do some increases so that, it fits nice and snug on my calf. But yeah, and like I want to do it so that there's enough material that it bunches up nice and gives me some extra thickness. So I don't know, just playing around with this. I've got one done so far. It's been a lot of fun. It goes faster than I thought it would because, when I'm halfway through one color, I'm like excited at like, okay, which one am I going to do next? So that's been fun. Just got a little over half of one done and just going to keep on rolling with it. Oh man, I didn't grab Hang on. Oh boy, this ought to be interesting. I can do this. I can do this. Oh shoot. All right, there we go. So that's that. Oh yeah, and then there's I'm making my boyfriend's dad a cowl for his birthday. I haven't gotten very far and I'm not sure. I think I am just going to keep going. It's one of those patterns, like when you first do the first few rows, you're like, I don't know, is this exciting enough? Is this what I was going for? Because one of the stitches is like a slip with yarn in front. So I've only done one row of it. There's going to be a lot more texture. I think I just need to keep going because he's going to love it no matter what. But that's all I got done. It is, I believe, this yarn is called Angel of Mercy. It's a tweed DK, 85 merino, 15 Donegal Nep. Yeah, by Coast to Coast Yarn. This goes back a year or two. This is her old logo. But I mean, I haven't done that much on it. That's almost true to color, sort of. I'm going to have a picture up on Ravelry. But yeah, I cast it on 220 stitches and just had to make sure that wasn't twisting. And I'm using my Licka size 8 needles. There's part of me that wants to start over and use a size 7 because the fabric's a little bit looser. Y'all, I think I just need to frog it and start over. Like, clearly there are several things I'm not loving about this. But if nothing else, I will probably start over with a size 7 needle and maybe just like the same stitch count and find a really simple textured stitch pattern that I could throw in to make it interesting, but not overly complicated and make the fabric just a little bit thicker. So that's my plan there. So let's just put my little crown of yarn without stabbing myself in the eye. Oh my gosh. Wouldn't that be a great start to the new podcast? All right, so there's that. And then the whip or UFO that I am working on, because the honey cow is obviously a new cast on. So the whip that I am working on that I started I don't even know. I would have to look it up. Let's look it up, shall we? Let's see. This is exciting content, isn't it? Let me see. So I started, it's The Weekender by Andrea Mowry. When did I start this little bugger? I created the project on May 2nd of 2022. And I have less than half a sleeve and a whole sleeve left. That's it. I don't know what it was about this sweater where I just wasn't excited about it while I was knitting it. And I don't know if it's just like, I don't know about y'all, but pandemic, even pre-pandemic, like I had gained some weight and it was hard for me to like buy clothes and be happy with the way that I looked at them and all of that. And we're not going to get into the psychology behind all that. Not looking for anybody to feel sorry for me. I'm fine. I'm doing great. But it was just a mental block I think maybe I had at the time. Luckily, I think it's still going to fit. Somehow miracles do happen. And oh my gosh, I'm already seeing where I have a dropped stitch and I'm going to have to go back. Shoot. Hold please. I have got to fix this. It'll drive me crazy. Isn't it amazing? I had a shawl not too long ago. I forget which one it is now. I finished it a while back and I went back to it and I was wearing it and I noticed there was a drop stitch. I'm like, how did I wear this for a year and this drop stitch never appeared? Does that happen to anybody else? Yeah, so I really just need to finish this sweater. Oh, is that the front of the bag? Hell, I don't know. Anyway, here's the sleeve. I think I'm gonna make this like 3/4 length sleeves I need to start the other one, but this is the one that I am going to be working on, you know, as I'm working on other stuff. Like this is the whip that I'll just pull out and knit on because it won't take me that long to finish it. Most of this yarn is Coast to Coast Yarn Woodpile, and like this golden orange yellow is hers. There is some purple in here from Fiber Optics Yarn. I just need to get some better pictures. So, oh boy. So that is the UFO I'm working on now. Does anybody else, like, I know some people are talking about how they're a little overwhelmed by like their stash or their projects. And I'm just wondering how other people are dealing with that. Like for me, I'm only buying yarn. Oh boy, tangent coming. But for me, I'm only buying yarn now if I have a specific project in mind for it. And I absolutely cannot find that yarn in my stash, which means I'm not buying very much yarn these days. But I don't know. And then, like I said, I'm just like challenging myself to find projects and make the yarn that I've got work, but then also finish all these projects that I've started. I mean, some of them date back to like 2019 or 2020 and I still haven't finished them, which whatever, but I do kind of want to get those project bags freed up, and I don't know, it's that sense of completion that's really nice, you know? So, all right, thank you for pausing to come to my knitting TED Talk. Let's keep going. And then, okay, so last of all, this is a muscle burra that I'm making for myself. It's got some really cool flashes of color. It's really more purple gray with some pink, and it is by Cornbread and Honey. I bought this yarn from them a long time ago, folks. But that's that. So yeah, I'm just working on that these days. This one, like I just take it with me, like if I'm on the shuttle for work to like go up to Northern Virginia, or I'm at somebody's house hanging out. You know, it's kind of like my car knitting, I guess you could say, where the rest of them, it's either at home or somewhere where like I can hang out but still focus a little bit. So I like having that on the needles, but there's like no pressure to finish it. All this stuff is about to fall. So let's just take that off. Whew. All right. I need to, oh my goodness, I need to pause for a second, go check something, and I'll be right back. Take two. So we finished UFOs. Oh, and I lost my coffee along the way. That's all right. I don't plan on taking too much longer. I love the people that have extremely long podcasts. I enjoy watching them, but I don't want to be one of those people because the more content I record, the more I have to edit, the longer it takes, and it's not sustainable. You didn't need to know all that. Let's keep going. So, dream knitting. I have a couple of things that I want to do. I'm going to include one of my UFOs in dream knitting because I started this shawl. I can't remember who the podcaster is, but she lives in San Francisco. And again, this was last year maybe. And she was starting a satellite shawl by Andrea Mowry. I've since discovered that I don't know that I love I think that the like offset triangle or whatever you want to call it kind of shawls, I think they're beautiful. They're not my favorite to wear. Nothing wrong with them, just not my thing. But I already started this shawl. It's looking gorgeous. I'll deal with it. I'll more than deal with it. I'm gonna love it. But it's me, so I was extra about it, and I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3 different colors for my like regular fingering weight yarn. And then I'm mixing and matching 3 different types of mohair. So like I might have yarn A, like fingering weight A, with mohair B and C held together. So it's taken me a minute to figure out like what I held together in what order, but I think I figured it out now. So I mean, I'm not terribly far on it. but it is just such an airy, light shawl, a light fabric that is also going to keep me so warm. I know that this like whiter color with yellow accents, if you can even see this in this terrible light, is the Lola Bean iced tea. I've got some darker brown that's probably Erin from Coast to Coast Yarn Company. I got another lighter brown with yellow speckles, and I can't even find that right now. What did I, or no, I guess, I don't know. Y'all, I don't even know. Like, it looks like I'm even missing some yarn out of here, but I'm gonna make it work because I do wonder, did I start using the Lola Bean Yarn Co. yarn? I think that's what it was, the same yarn from the socks that I showed you a minute ago. I think I started that and I was like, you know, this is the kind of yarn where like I feel like you need to see it in all its glory by itself. So I swapped it out for like this gold color right here. Anyway, and then like I got some stuff to fix on the back. Like this is probably, it's not the first time that I've done brioche knitting because some of it's brioche, but I haven't done it a lot. And so I've had to learn how to fix things and what I can't fix. I'm just kind of fudging it because who cares? But I'm working on it. Probably next month you'll see it again. But I just wanted to call it out because, you know, set my expectations for myself. But yeah, I'm really loving it. You know, the color choices are pretty much on theme for what a lot of my stuff is, especially in the last year or two. So that's dream knitting. The other thing that I did was I bought a sweater's quantity of yarn from Sarah at Craft Me Not Yarn Co. I was making, oh, that's another finished object I could have talked about another time. I made some Star Wars sweater ornaments as a gift, and the Darth Vader one, and I posted about it if you saw it on Instagram. The main color was Hip to Peck, and it was from Sarah's Homestead. I forget what she called her winter box for 2022, but it was one of the minis, and I just loved the fact, I just loved it. So I was like, you know what? I want a sweater out of that yarn. And here it is. Oh, it smells so good. I don't know if you can see. I mean, it's sort of, I would say it's showing up a little bit darker in the camera, but oh my gosh, and look at her logo. She drew that herself. And her winter box for 2023, of course. I'll show that off sometime too, because I want to talk about like advents and winter boxes and stuff, maybe closer to the time when people are going to start opening those up, because I think it's just an interesting conversation to have if you're thinking about getting one, because there's so many different options out there. And with hers, it's just, I think it's very different. I love the thought that she puts into it. There were 2 colorways in there where one day I'm going to have a striped sweater out of those 2 colors. They were just unbelievable. And the anticipation's probably killing you. I will show you eventually. But like I said, I want to make this so that I actually get this podcast up. Yeah, like this is a little bit lighter and a little bit more subtle than how it's showing up in this light that I've got. But I have my yarn babies. I think I know what sweater I'm making, but this is probably not going to be a cast on until February or March because I need to get through a couple of things, but I'm going to leave it sitting out so I can stare at it every day because it's so pretty. Definitely will use like alternating skeins. I don't think I'm going to use the helical knitting method though, because I believe Professor Pearl, Nicole of Professor Pearl, she posted a video, it was a couple of years ago. Like I said, time doesn't mean anything anymore. And it was a different way to alternate skeins without having to do helical knitting. So I'll probably use that. And when I do, I'll talk more about this in depth and maybe I'll find that. All right, I think that might be it for dream knitting. Yes. So let's move into the non-knitting stuff, shall we? Let's see. I've been watching a couple shows. I try to do stuff where it's new and different to me, but then also have something on that's easy background kind of stuff. Usually that's knitting podcasts, but every once in a while, something in the background's nice. I am starting to watch more and more anime these days. So we're watching Attack on Titan. I think we're still in season 1, but really enjoying that one. I finished Succession not too long ago so I could get rid of my HBO, well, or so I thought. And I loved it. I thought the ending was perfect. Some of my family members don't like the fact that we play this game of like who in the family is what character, but it's a lot of fun. And I'm like, it's the worst version of all of us, right? It's just a game. It's not real. But it's a lot of fun to get reactions out of people when I tell them who I think they are in the show. Then I started rewatching True Detective. I only ever made it through the first season, and I saw there was another season coming out with Jodie Foster. I think the first episode already dropped, and I don't think you need to watch the seasons like in order, but I still wanted to watch them all to get a good feel for it. And so yeah, I started that over, I guess, a couple of days ago, and that's kind of it for shows at the moment. So I didn't cancel HBO like I said I was going to. Oh, and totally got the boyfriend hooked on the Great British Baking Show. We are getting caught up. I stopped watching after a certain point and just started watching it again with him. And then we've gotten into later seasons that I haven't even seen before. So that's been fun. It's pretty easy for me to get non-bakers hooked on that show. There's something about it where I feel like anybody could watch it. You don't have to be just a baker. So that's kind of it for shows and movies, because I also read and listen to audiobooks a lot. Right now, I am reading, I got a lot of books going because it's me. I am in the middle of reading Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I'm really enjoying it a lot. I love his writing style. I read a good number of his books last year. My favorite so far is the Beartown series. It's just, he just does such a great job, like telling you he's going to set you up for something, but even when it happens, you're still like gutted or surprised. And I think the third book in the trilogy, the last book, came out last year. So I ended up reading all of those. I'm reading A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. I had read Nettle and Bone by her last year as well and really enjoyed it. And she's going to be at RavenCon this year. It's a convention that we have here in Richmond. And so I'm excited to meet her. I'm not like A House with Good Bones is okay. I have some issues with it, but whatever. I'm still going to finish it. It's not bad. It's just not great. But my plan is to read more of her stuff before RavenCon so that, you know, I feel like I know her writing style and her works a little bit better so that I get more out of her talk and getting to hopefully meet her and get a book signed. My obsession with Brandon Sanderson continues. I am in the middle of a couple of his books, and actually I've put a few things down because A House with Good Bones I rented through the Libby app, which is just an app. It's Libby, and you can connect your library card to it and you can check out ebooks and audiobooks. And I've started to, instead of like buying more and more books, I'll just put myself on a wait list and read something I've already got, and then put down whatever I have on hand to, you know, read the library book, since it's 14 days and you gotta return it virtually. I've set down a lot of books to finish A House with Good Bones, almost done with that. But I am in the middle of a few Brandon Sanderson books. The one that I'm more actively reading at the moment is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, because the boyfriend and I are listening to that together. which we actually need to get back to that soon. I wanted to introduce him to one of my favorite fantasy authors, and Yumi and the Nightmare Painter has got some anime influences in it, and he's a huge anime fan and is doing a lot of work on the side in that area. So I was like, well, what better way to introduce him to my favorite fantasy author than pick a book that's really close to like a subject that he's passionate about. I'm also reading Skyward. That's his Sanderson's, like, I think it's middle grade or young adult sort of sci-fi novel. I'm really enjoying that. And I'm also I've started Rhythm of War, which is the 4th book in his sort of epic series, his epic fantasy series. I wouldn't even know how to begin to describe that one because I'm so deep into it and the books are so big. So just look it up if you're interested. Oh my gosh. And then my brother and I, one of my brothers, did a year-long read-along for Les Miserables. I don't think he's finished it yet, but he's way busier than I am, so that's fine. I was determined. I was like, I started this book in 2023 and I'm going to finish it in 2023. So I warned him I was just going to speed ahead, and I'm not going to take forever to dissect that book. And what I'm about to say, you can agree with me or disagree with me. That's your choice. I'm not going to argue about it, but there were parts of it that I just like fell in love with. And there were parts of it where like I wanted to take, like a razor and just cut pages out. And I am not, like, I always say, if you're going to read a book, you read the unabridged version because it should be preserved the way that the author wrote it. I'm not sure I feel that way about this book anymore. I think that Hugo meant to write the main story of Jean Valjean and all of those characters. He wanted to do that while he also wanted to write a history of France during that time period. And it was like he was writing 2 different books for this one epic novel. And it didn't always work for me. I mean, hundreds of pages on how an abbey is like built, and I felt like I got a description of every single brick that was laid in it. And it was like you spent so much time sometimes in the history of certain things that you lost the story for a while, and it was kind of jarring to come back to it. So I could go on for a while. I do think it was a beautiful book. I do think that it's something that people should read. I will read it again, but I think one day I'll be on a quest for an abridged version of that book so that I can enjoy the story but actually finish it before I die, because it's a long one and there's a lot in there. So I linked my Goodreads account down below if you want to follow my reading journey. Last year I set a much higher goal than I could possibly attain of 50 books. This year I'm dialing it back to 35, which I think is a little bit more than what I read last year. So we'll see how it goes. I am, like I said, I'm in the middle of like 6 books right now, I think, and one day I'll finish them all. Life stuff, holidays are pretty easy. It's, we don't, the holidays aren't as much of a production anymore. And it's more about, let's just spend some quality time together. And I end up making things that I can freeze like weeks ahead of time and then just thaw them out and throw them in a pot and heat them up, or, make cookie dough, freeze it like pre-portioned, and then throw it in the oven and be ready to go. So that was really nice to kind of like spread things out and have some breathing room and really just be there in the moment instead of worrying so much about like, oh my gosh, I've got to get 1,000 gifts and I've got to do all of this stuff and the house has to look a certain way, and, and just dialing it back. And that was really nice. 2023 was a really strange year. I feel like I've been saying that every year since like 2019, but there were some really high highs and some really low lows, but I made it through. And just these days focusing on like being heart healthy, experimenting with recipes along those lines. That's been a lot of fun. I am doing I'm trying to do a better job keeping in touch with people. I'm not always successful at it, but I'm getting there. I'm just so popular. No, it's not that. But no, trying to keep connections that are really important to me. It's tough to do. It's tough to stay in touch with people with life going on. So, anyway, doing my best there. You know, I don't want to keep seeing people just when tragedy strikes. I want us to have memories outside of those moments, right? Last year was the year of anime conventions. I went to 2 different ones and I really enjoyed them a lot. And the first one that I went to was Animazement in Raleigh. And I remember walking around and I'm like, oh my gosh, I watched that. I watched that too. And I didn't know that they were anime shows, anime movies. So that was really neat. Like Death Note, I love Death Note, or Full Metal Alchemist. I just ended up watching one day just for fun. And turns out like I really love anime movies and anime shows, and conventions are a lot of fun to go to. So going to a couple of those this year. And then I guess one really fun trip that I took last year, because I can't remember them all, but went to this really cool cabin in Floyd, Virginia. And it's got this little artsy town not far away from it, and just had a great time, just relaxing and hanging out, checking out a new area, and yeah, getting away for a little bit. So I've got some trips planned this year, but trying to make it manageable from a price tag and a time management standpoint, and making sure I also give myself time to rest and do the things that I want to do. And Supervisor Ophelia, for those that know, she is around here somewhere sleeping. It is afternoon nap time ahead of dinner time. She'll start bugging me for dinner in about 45 minutes, even though she doesn't eat till 5. You know, she's got to make sure I know that she doesn't, you know, miss a meal like I've ever forgotten. And yeah, just hanging out, trying to survive, stay in touch with people, and get some knitting done. So I don't know how much shorter this was than my other ones. There will probably be some things to cut out, like what I'm rambling about right now. And wish me luck on getting this edited and figuring out my new editing software. And like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and you know, get notifications if you would like to know when the next one comes up. And if there's anything that you would like to see out of my channel, like I said, I'm keeping it pretty low maintenance, pretty easy to sustain, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to do like some different things, like, you know, maybe just showcasing certain things, like talking about advents, or I have an idea for just like festival tips and tricks in general, but especially for fiber festivals, but also gathering tips from other people to include in there. So if any of that stuff is interesting or sounds interesting to you, just let me know. And I don't know what my cadence is going to be. I make no promises. I'll get back to you when I can. But in the meantime, thanks for joining me here today, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.